while big meetings are taking place, Joe Biden is renewing his push to provide direct financial relief to the low income, and people have confirmed that the president wants to cut the poverty rate with the help of expanded credits. It can mean monthly relief checks worth up to $2,000. Now, President Biden blasts Republicans' demanded spending cuts as devastating, making this case in a campaign-style speech to voters. There are big changes taking place right now, and Joe Biden is trying to push for financial relief to the low income. Officials have even confirmed that the president wants to cut the poverty rate with the help of expanded credits. This can mean more monthly relief checks worth up to $2,000. Today, the president blasted Republicans demanding spending cuts as devastating, making his case in a campaign-style speech to voters. The president is showing an increased willingness to discuss possible budget restraints, yet he insisted he knew any talks that should occur without the risk of the federal government being unable to pay its bills. Also today, the White House and Congress met for 2 hours privately at the Capitol to discuss a path forward. Biden stated, "America is the strongest economy in the world, but we should be spending our cuts and lowering the deficit without a needless crisis." His words were a challenge to Kevin McCarthy, who met yesterday with Biden at the White House, declaring afterward that sharp spending cuts were required for the House Republicans to increase the debt limit and stave off the risk of default. Biden laid into that GOP proposal today, saying spending cuts recently passed by the Republican House could affect schools and countries that are sacred to obligations to the military veterans. The face-off comes as the government is rapidly bumping up against its legal borrowing authority, meaning that it may not be able to pay its bills as early as the start of next month unless lawmakers agree to lift the limit. In efforts to gain voter support, Biden pointed to 12 million jobs during his term and a fresh focus on domestic manufacturing, while warning that any unprecedented thing, a debt default for instance, could threaten millions of jobs and raise the prospect of a recession. Yet GOP lawmakers blamed this crisis relief spending for high inflation and has many voters worrying about what's going to happen. Kevin McCarthy has shown a few signs that he and other House Republicans are willing to budge from their debt limit proposal, leaving Chuck Schumer to warn the speaker as reckless. The president has countered the GOP plan with its own budget proposal, which could save $800 billion through changes to government programs. Of that sum, Biden said that over $200 billion over the 10 years would come from expanding Medicare's eligibility to negotiate on prescription prices. He said by contrast that the House Republican bill could jeopardize medical care for U.S. families, with deficit savings when lowering costs. Joe Biden has also gained substantial support on his budget proposal, which includes enhancing the child tax credit. The temporary enactment in 2021 was an enormous success. Unfortunately, the president and many members sought to carry that success forward. Now, that bill stalled in the Senate, and provisions were not included in the Inflation Reduction Act. As a result, millions of people are slipping back into poverty. For much of the year, Manchin played a huge role for the party's climate, healthcare, and tax agenda. Last month, he lent his approval pivotal support to the Inflation Reduction Act, the centerpiece of Democrats' economic plans, that he authored in secret with Chuck Schumer. It would pass in Republican votes, but unlike that expensive measure, he had no way in Biden's design of the student loan relief program. Manchin's view was not entirely unique to his party. Colorado Senator Michael Bennet, who is up for re-election in November, said in a statement that following Biden's announcement, he wished Biden had further targeted the relief and proposed a way to pay for his plan. Bennett added, while immediate relief to families is important, one-time debt cancellation does not solve the underlying problem. While many Republicans continue to slam the relief, sign the cost it could have to taxpayers and the economy, the leading voices on loan forgiveness like Chuck Schumer have vowed to continue pushing for up to $50,000 in rent relief. Even after that, President Biden's administration said on multiple occasions, this is a one-time blanket loan forgiveness. Schumer thanked Biden for taking action on student debt relief and criticized Republicans for what he called fake outrage on the issue. Information has been released on the fourth round of stimulus checks from President Biden's administration. Democrats and Republicans are discussing whether all Americans should receive extra financial assistance. Some states and cities have already approved new gas relief checks to help offset the rising prices. Right now, a large number of companies and institutions are finding ways to help Americans cope with inflation by doling out employee bonuses or by offering more promotions than usual. In July, consumer prices jumped 8.5% compared to a year earlier, down from June when prices popped 9.1%. And while Americans got some relief last month with inflation slipping lightly, it's still slightly around its 40-year high. The Bureau of Labor Statistics releases the August inflation report this coming Tuesday. And now, to help with the rising prices, Domino's announced an inflation relief deal. Customers would get 20% off all menu-priced items ordered online for a limited time. According to the pizza chain, this applies to stores nationwide. The move was similar to Krispy Kreme's promotion back in April when the donut maker offered customers a discount on its sweet treats to offset the pain at the pump. The company sold a dozen original glazed donuts for the price of a gallon of gas. Aside from the product discounts, some employees are also getting extra cash in order to combat this painfully high price. The Lowe's CEO told analysts earlier this month that the company is giving out bonuses to hourly frontline associates in recognition of some of the cost pressures that they are facing due to inflation. Lawmakers in Newsom have already finally a deal. Gavin Newsom recently finalized a deal to send $9.5 billion back to Californians feeling the crush of $6 gas and rising cost of groceries and other products and services. The payments, which could be as much as $1,000, also are coming from Governor Gavin Newsom. The Franchise Tax Board will not start the process until October because the agency is already dealing with tax. New relief is here. There is a new payment schedule for the fourth round of checks.
It's always good to be in the House of Labor. I want to thank you all for the work you do every day. It inspires us. And Secretary Walsh, thank you. You are a great partner in this effort and a great leader in our administration. So good afternoon, everyone. Before we get started, I just want to say a word about the jobs report that came out today. I think we all know that it really shows that Americans are getting back to work. And what we are seeing is that it is happening at a record-setting pace. As a result of the diligence and the determination of the American people and the policies of our administration, our nation's economic recovery continues to be, let there be no doubt, the strongest in the world. And again, I want to thank Marty Walsh for his introduction and the work you do every day. So it is good to be back also in Prince George's County. Senator Cardin, Senator Van Hollen, it's good to be back with you as always, my former colleagues, and of course to be here at Iron Workers Local 5 with all of you. And I know we're all waiting to hear in a moment from one of the greatest friends of union labor workers, President Joe Biden. So I just have a few comments to make. All of the workers gathered here know that our administration will always stand in solidarity with you and with organized labor. It comes from our heart, it comes from our soul. We are unequivocal and clear about the importance of that relationship, not only to us and our administration, but to our country and the working men and women of America. Because we know